Hello, Dr. Gale here with another bonus video. In this video we're going to be doing more water temple stuff, but as an adult this time. As an adult there are way more tricks to do in the water temples because you have the hook shot and hover boots and stuff. So I'll be showing off a lot of those as much as I can. First thing I'll show off is how to get into the water temple very easily. It's a similar trick as what I did to get into the shadow temple and what I did to hit the loading zone to Zora's domain. Just did a teleport slide down into this section of the map, which you can only do when the water level is that low. Otherwise, you just wouldn't go low enough to hit anything. A very easy way into the water temple, not the only way in. There's obviously the legit way, but there's even another way that you can do from the laboratory. You can clip into that and then through that get out of bounds. I'm showing off what happens when you RBA the bomb bag that I've shown off that you can collect. If you notice, the key count, small key count for the water temple is changing as I do it. When I caught bugs, I got 29 keys. So now I have way more keys for this temple than I'll ever need. And the reason I get that is because the bomb bag 20 is something you're never supposed to really have equipped, and in the bite it sort of gets to small key counts in dungeons. I'm going to show off, I've lowered the water level already, but I'm going to show off a trick you can do with this song block that normally rises the water up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do the time stop glitch that I accidentally showed off. If I do it in front of a song block, I actually bring up the song bar, but I could still move around, as you can see. What I'm going to actually do is play Zelda's Lullaby as I'm moving. I'm using the C buttons like normal, but they also end up using some of the items too. Really interesting effect. And what I'm going to do is, while it's about to finish, I'm going to open up this door. And the cutscene for the rising of the water happens, but it does it while I'm going through the door. So as you see, it actually loaded the middle of the room while the cutscene was happening. So now I'm actually in the middle of the room with the water all the way up. Normally you need iron boots. I did this, so this was a way to do this to get to the top without ever actually using iron boots. That's just a demonstration though. I'll be using him right now just to get out of here quickly, because otherwise you need to save and quit. I actually do a small glitch here. If you notice, I was swimming around with the iron boots. Normally you're not ever supposed to do that. When you put on the iron boots, it's supposed to make you just sink to the bottom. But if you sort of do it a certain way, you can actually swim around while having iron boots as you sink. Makes things a little bit faster. But okay, so we have a ton of water temple keys, more than there are doors that have keys in the temple. So because of that, we can go straight to the long shot. I could have done it before I did what I just did. I didn't have to do getting into the middle of the pillar. I just wanted to show off you could to get that Skulltula. But if you wanted to, you could just go straight to the long shot room. You only need 2 small keys, and well, we have plenty. This room is a lot easier, obviously, as an adult. You have hookshot, and hookshot lets you do cool stuff like get this Skulltula. No, I don't think you're supposed to normally get it with a hookshot. I'm not entirely sure, but if you have Aishi and you get right up against the edge, or maybe you could manually do it, it's a little bit harder, but you have just enough distance to that Skulltula to actually hit it. I don't know if it's normally something you need the long shot for. I kind of feel like it is, but you have just enough hookshot length to get it if you're right up against the edge of the platforming run. This room I had to hover across as a child. As an adult with hover boots, it's way easier. You just use hover boots to get across. You could skip having to do any of the rising of the statues. And if I didn't have hover boots, I would just have to do this puzzle pretty much normally without using the hookshot to hit this thing constantly. But again, with hover boots, a lot easier. Hover boots makes things a lot easier pretty much everywhere. Here, I actually hookshot the like slightly faster than hitting the hookshot plate up at the top of the ceiling. Just a little bit, and probably not faster if you missed the first time like I did. Darkling fight. I'm not going to be using Deku Nuts. You don't really need it as an adult. You might not even necessarily need it as a child. It was just a lot faster. But as an adult, I mentioned this, but it's pretty easy to set this up. I was trying to set it up here. That motion I was doing was what works. It didn't work right now because he was stuck on the tree. But if you face away and slash sideways, you actually hit him over your shoulder with the sword. So it's very easy. It only took 3 hits because I only have 3 hearts. But if you had more hearts, you could just keep doing that. It takes maybe a little bit of timing, but not a whole lot, and you could just sort of beast through them pretty easily and get the long shot. Pretty easy. Long shots, a really fun thing to have. Just, you know, hookshot is already a pretty good item. Having one that goes twice as far is super good. So, setting up more RBA stuff. I wanted to show off again half milk. I explained it in the last bonus video, but as a quick overview, if you have 26 of something and you drink milk, then through the RBA bottle, then it changes it to 31 because it goes from full milk to half milk, or at least the way the code understands it. So I just showed it off there. I went from 26 keys to 31 keys by drinking milk. Just wanted to show that off, and I actually do have another purpose for that too. So I don't have the Song of Time, but I want to get through that Song of Time block. What I'm going to do is a glitch that requires hover boots, but so you either need Song of Time or hover boots to get through this. But if you don't have Song of Time and you have hover boots, what you can do is do this sort of recoil, put on hover boots, and open the door at the same time. And what happens is the door stays open. It's not working correctly, and if you notice, it closed as I was moving. What happens is the game sort of saves your position and momentum when you enter the room when the door closes, and that's relevant for when you void out, because when you void out, it puts you back at that position and sort of, I guess, velocity or momentum as where the door closed when you entered the room. So I sort of gamed the system there, and I actually sort of set my momentum as being towards the wall. And what happens is when I void out, I actually go straight through the wall, and if I put on hover boots, I can hover long enough to get sort of back towards this platform here. And I've sort of I basically unloaded this section of the room, or got here without loading it properly. And if I hookshot up to, that's where the longshot chest was. I did load the bottom room correctly, but now the top room isn't loaded right, and I just sort of have to navigate my way to the hole here. So all that was basically to unload the Song of Time block to get through it. It wasn't necessary to do anything like that as a child because I mentioned it at one point, but Song of Time blocks are in their opposite state as a child, just everywhere. Very strange. But we're down here. I'm only here to continue getting more stuff in the water temple. If you look very far back, you can see a Skulltula over there. Normally, I think you're supposed to use iron boots, sit in the water, and hit it with your long shot, but you can also hit it from here, sort of. If you notice, my long shot didn't go far enough. But if I do a certain technique, if I turn around real quick and use a hook shot, long shot, I actually get slightly more distance. A very minuscule amount, but it's enough to hit that Skulltula, even though that didn't work before. I basically inched the hook shot like just a little bit closer to it, and it was enough to kill it and grab the token. That trick has a couple of other uses too. There's a few instances in the game where usually it's for the hook shot, but you just don't have quite enough distance, but you're almost there. You have to use that to actually get across the Gerudo Bridge if you wanted to just use a hook shot and nothing else. So this is the room where there's a current of water that circles you around. Normally you're supposed to put on iron boots, hit the switch, and then swim in. As a child, what I did is I used the bomb to hit the switch, and then backflipped while the cutscene was happening to sort of ignore the water collision. But having the long shot, what I can actually do, well, it's a bit tough because this hallway is a bit narrow and I can't use the typical setup I use. If I do a weird shot, where I pull out the hook shot while hitting a bomb, it shoves the hook shot camera, the long shot camera, through the ground, and I could actually hit the small key chest over there with it. It's long enough to hit it. So that's one of the reasons why long shot is just a really fun thing to do if you couple it with weird shot. There's a lot of stuff you can hit that you're not supposed to. So I reset back to the beginning. That's pretty much the fastest way back. It's kind of necessary for the water temple a lot. I'm going to show off one other way to get to the bottom very quickly. I've shown off like navi diving and diving and stuff, but if you have a long shot, which you're not supposed to have, I guess, or I guess you could actually just long shot the torch at the bottom and swim. It's a funny way to get down there quickly and completely glitchless and possible, but it's not possible to do obviously the very first time, at least normally in a playthrough, the first time down there. But subsequently you can just do that. So I'm going to get back on that ledge that normally you need the water halfway up to. You can just use hover boots. If you just side hop while walking, the hover boots keep your momentum enough to sort of get you onto this platform even after you hit the wall. Another useful thing with hover boots. And again, now you're not supposed to ever have the hover boots here in a normal playthrough. So they probably just didn't account for a lot of this, but having them, it's very helpful. And I did end up getting at least ice arrows to use the bow, because that's the easiest way to sort of complete this section. I don't have Din's Fire, I don't even have magic, so I couldn't do that. The other method is to actually bring a stick into the water temple, but that's a little tedious to set up, and you can't actually do it while inside the temple. There's a way to... The normal way you get stick is to get a bottle on B and then save and quit, or die or something, and that actually puts a stick on your B button. That doesn't work if you start in water, like you do in the water temple. I'll probably show off later more about what that does, but it makes you swordless if you start off in water when you had a bottle when you saved and quit. So this area over here is completely optional. At the end of it, there's just a Skulltula. Nothing necessary to beat the game, but it does have a cool trick associated with it. Say we came in here without the gold scale to dive all the way down, or without iron boots. I do have iron boots, but if we wanted to get over there without them, without either of those things, we could do it. If you hookshot a torch while you're right next to it, normally, because the hookshotting something sets you, it sort of changes your position. If you hookshot a torch up against the wall, it actually puts you through the wall. It's called a torch clip. Very easy to do, but the torch needs to be close enough against the wall so that the position where it tries to set you is basically behind it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to swim over here, and there's a pillar of water that actually goes straight up to the entrance of the water temple. If I rise up a little bit and then go this way, and jump slash actually hit the loading zone for this section of the water temple. And that lets you swim over here. The camera got stuck on the hallway a little bit, but it's not too hard to navigate over here. I essentially just hit the loading zone for... Normally you're supposed to swim through the area and then you hit the loading zone that way. But I hit it from slightly out of bounds, and that lets you keep swimming around out of bounds. Because the water level is like all the way across the map. It's not just contained inside where the walls are. And by doing that, it lets you get to that Skulltula. Of course, if you don't have iron boots, then you have to sort of reset out of here. But one other thing we can do with this torch, clip back out, and what we're going to do is we're going to get back into that pillar of water that goes all the way to the top. Because of the entrance to the water temple always being water no matter what the level is. That's a water column all the way up. We're going to swim, let that take us almost all the way to the top. So if we keep going up, there's this section of the water temple, which is like right below the entrance, which is right there. So now we're in here. Normally you're supposed to get in here from another direction. But when you're in here, you can actually do another weird shot to a small key chest that's over there. And this is actually typically necessary, or generally necessary, because well, right now I don't have any strength upgrades, not even the power bracelet. And without that, I can't actually push this block, so I couldn't do this puzzle normally anyways. And it's another section where I have to reset out of there. Save and reset. Doing another time stop. It's hard to explain exactly what time stop is, but if you shield and press bottle right after that, it causes this weird state where the camera's locked, certain things don't move properly, certain actors don't act properly, and if you do it in front of a song of time, like a song block like that, or even I think in front of a gossip stone, it causes you to play songs like that. Very strange trick. Not too many uses, but that one's a really fun one. So we're doing this to get back down here, the last small key. And the only reason I'm doing this is I sort of wanted to show off. When I get this last key, I'll have 37 keys, and that is sort of the most you can ever have in a temple, sort of legitimately. Obviously I've used glitches, but I haven't used any cheats or anything. So 37 water temple keys is actually like the max amount that could ever be possible to have just in a game using stuff that's in the game. I mean, that's not really meaningful in any way, I suppose, but it's just a fun little thing. It's interesting enough that some people have done like little speed runs to do this. And earlier I did catch a fairy, and I did it just for this section, because doing this section with 3 hearts is pretty tough, but I almost made it. I was 1 second away from finishing this without dying. It's really close, because I don't have the water tunic, the Zora tunic. But that lets us get the last water temple key. There's 6 in total, and I got to 31 using half milk and then got those 6, so I got 37 keys. This is to show that there's an... I used hover boots before, but you could also just do a jump. It's a little tricky because that ledge isn't very good. It's a very weird ledge. But I want to show off that if you're about to fall off a ledge and you target on the first frame you're grabbing on, it actually forces you flush with the wall that's right next to it, as long as there's a wall there. And that lets you clip out of bounds. That only works in sort of that wall position if there's a... where the ledge meets the wall, it has to be at that sort of positioning in order for that to work, because if it was mirrored in the other way, Link's model does not act the same. So that's the only way to clip out of bounds this way. But it lets you go over here, hit the loading zone for this section of the water temple while out of bounds, and then you can just swim to it, which is the compass. This also lets you get to the bottom of the water temple too, so it's another way to get to the very bottom. But that trick only works as an adult. And once we're in here, we could actually just roll into the compass chest through the pillar of water and get the compass. One last thing to show off, as far as dungeon item stuff goes. Over here is where you typically get the boss key. I've shown you don't need the boss key, so I won't be like saving any of this, especially because I'll have to be using a couple small keys. But if you just backwalk and jump over with hover boots, you could do this room without using the longshot. So if for whatever reason you were down here for that, you could also hover across, which is what I did as a child. But with hover boots, you could just walk backwards and jump. Sort of tricky timing, but not too hard. But there's one last skull over here that the longshot is just long enough to hit. Very quick way to get it. But if you didn't have the longshot for whatever reason, you can there's another way over there. You could run over there with hover boots pretty easily. But even without hover boots, if you just jump in a certain way, you can grab that ledge. And basically, I just skipped that entire section of the dungeon, where I go across that water and stuff. And if I jump into that water pit, I get enough momentum into the water to go underneath that ledge, which I couldn't do as a child. You don't get enough depth that way. And you walk in here and the boss key's over here. So pretty easy. But again, I don't need the boss key. What I'm going to show off here, we're going to be doing the boss now. To get across, again, I have a long shot, but if I didn't, I could just do a mega side hop, put on hover boots during it, and then sort of hold backwards. And that gets you enough distance to get across. So I'm already across this section. Pretty easy. I could also just super slide. And then once we're in here, we could just do a boss key skip. So I do it a little bit differently because I don't have... Well, I just do it with hover boots instead. Hover boots shorten your backflip so you can just hover upwards that way. And then I jump out the door. Jump attack in. Pretty easy. Now we're in the boss fight. The boss fight again is a lot easier as an adult. I have a long shot, but again, you don't need a long shot. Hook shot is just fine. All you have to do is wait for Morpha to start being inside the tentacle, or whenever you can hit her. It's just easiest to hit her while she's in the tentacle. If you hook shot her, long shot her, you could just keep doing that. It sort of keeps her stunned as long as you're hook shotting her. What I do is I position herself between me and the wall, and then jump attack, and then just keeps crouch stabbing, and it keeps her against the wall up until I kill her. No, up until I kill her. Pretty easy fight, way easier as an adult, obviously. You could do the same method I did as a child as an adult, but there's really no reason to. But that's the water temple. A lot of cool tricks. I hope everyone enjoyed that. Thanks for watching.